We're on, right? Awesome. All right. Thank you, friends, for joining us on the Barriers and Breakthroughs show. I'm so excited because actually this was just meant to happen. I'll just tell you that way, because sometimes you have plans and they get changed for a reason, and this is what you're supposed to hear tonight. I am Rochelle Payne-Baum, the Pain Whisperer, and we are going to talk a little bit about the upcoming movie. It's actually out, Unplanned. If you've seen some of my posts, we went and saw this movie as a family on Monday, and so we have a great guest. Her name is Laurie Rowe. She's joining us from Virginia, and she's going to give us a lot of amazing details about this movie. She is the National Group Sales Director, right, Laurie? And has helped make this possible for everybody in the country to see this amazing movie. So, Laurie, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and how you kind of came involved with this movie. It's about abortion and why we should be pro-life.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Awesome.
It's great to have everybody joining us this evening, and thank you so much for the invitation.
Awesome.
We became fast friends this week, and I'm so glad to
I agree.
meet your friend. So I am Laurie Rowe, and I am coming to you from Lynchburg, Virginia. And so I have been involved since the early part of January with the film Unplanned. And if you're not familiar with the storyline, let me just give you a little quick synopsis, and then we can talk more about it in a minute. Unplanned is the true story about a woman named Abby Johnson, and Abby worked with Planned Parenthood for 8 years. She became the clinic director of the Bryan, Texas Planned Parenthood, and then was also named Employee of the Year. Abby worked there fully believing that she was helping and empowering women. And it was in that 8th year that she witnessed her first ever abortion. It happened to be an ultrasound-guided abortion. And what she saw in that abortion changed everything for her. She left and became pro-life and is now probably the most prominent voice on pro-life issues in America, and probably becoming a strong voice globally as well. And so I have been a part of this film project as working with the filmmakers and a team of people that have worked very strategically across the country to get what we like to say our butts in seats, and that would be people coming to see the movie on opening weekend, and that was last weekend us. We opened on March 29th. And I can talk a little bit about what we did, kind of, or if you want to talk more about the film itself. Which direction do you want to go there, Rochelle?
So I know you did mention that you had amazing results and turnout, more than you expected, right? Like millions more, right? It's been very well supported.
Right. So the analysts predicted that Unplanned would do around $3 million in its opening weekend, and about $6.4 million, maybe 6.3, somewhere between.
More than double. That's awesome.
And we were thrilled. What was super important was that we were on just about 1,050 screens, and so to have that high of a volume with such a few number of screens, just to put it in context, a Marvel or a Dumbo is going to be somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 screens nationwide.
Whoa, that's a good thing to answer.
A small number of screens, and yet made a big impact. And they measured part of that impact by the volume that we did per screen across America. Average was about $6,000 per screen, which was really a high number.
And that just shows that you are a movie expert, because I would have never known those numbers. That's awesome. That's good, interesting information.
That you're supposed to know, right?
Yeah, exactly. You've done a lot of films, so that's really cool. Really cool. So kind of tell us a little bit of how you got involved with the film and why you chose this movie.
Well, as I was telling you earlier, Rochelle, I have a background in publishing. For the early years in my career, I was in faith-based publishing, and then I left that and actually opened a clothing store. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee originally, and that is the headquarters for Christian publishing, and that's what I was a part of. I left the retail industry and went into higher education, and then I had twin girls. And at that point,
we love twins.
I posted this whole stay-at-home mom thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good job.
Thank you. And about 6 months into that, one of my friends from my publishing world called me, and she said, "You have got to come over here and work with me in the faith-based movie space." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "What in the world?" And at that time, I think the first project that I worked on was with somebody that you may have heard of, Mark Burnett and Roma Downey. And they had a new film coming out. And so I worked with that team on that film. And then I just discovered that there's a lot of layover between faith-based publishing and film, because a lot of times a film will be based on a best-selling book. Or
correct. Yeah.
And a lot of my former publishing colleagues had become film people. And so it just kind of became a really fun and meaningful
progression, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And I've always been, I do it kind of on contract. However, whenever I feel like the message is right. Yeah. And then, 2 years ago,
have you written any books?
I have not written any books. I have published.
That's your next project, right? You probably can. You're very articulate, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I, about 2 years ago, finished my last film project, and I felt like the Lord was calling our family into a different season. Film work is really intense, and it's feast or famine. You're all in, or you're not in at all.
Yeah.
And I was really burned out, and I felt like the Lord was calling us into a season of healthier living. And so I began a business with doTERRA essential oils, and for the last 2 years, just 100% on growing that business. And I've loved it. I've loved integrating healthier living into our home, and also just really plant-based lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then in December, I got that famous phone call from my friend who always calls, and who says, you got to do this. Actually, it was a text. And she said, "I'm working on a new film. It's about abortion." And I called her, and I was like, "What is this?" And she told me, and just I could feel it in my heart. I just knew that the Lord was saying, "This is what you're supposed to do." And so I have told several people. I didn't even ask my husband. I just said, "Yeah, I'll do it," because
I'm in. Yeah.
And he came home that night. I'm like, "Well, I know I'm supposed to do this project." And I told several other people, and they just kind of looked at me like, "Really? Are you sure? Because it takes a lot out of you." And I said, "Yeah, there's something here." And all I can tell you is that the last 3 months, God has just done some amazing things in my own heart, opened my eyes to an industry that I really didn't know anything about, and has taught me so much. I've been learned a lot along the way.
Tell me a couple of those lessons, of some of the things and behind the scenes, of the movie, because you've met the actors and the real people and all that. So tell us some of those lessons.
I actually worked with the filmmakers, and so what I would say, so for me, I'm going to talk about what first struck me when I watched the movie back in January.
Really fast. Keep in mind, this is the Barriers and Breakthroughs show. So if there's a barrier and there's a breakthrough, go ahead and just phrase it that way,
So I felt like the first time I watched the movie, and for those that haven't seen the movie, we can talk in a minute maybe about some of the emotions that you experience and what to expect when you see it. But I was just struck so much with what happens inside of an abortion clinic. But more so, I was struck by, I am pro-life. I've always been pro-life. But I felt like God was saying to me, "But what are you doing about it, Laurie? What in your life are you doing?" I mean, I have 3 children. I would, in growing up, if I had found myself pregnant, I would have never had an abortion. But I certainly couldn't even imagine, having an abortion. That being said, I've never, gone to a Planned Parenthood and stood across on the other side of the fence and prayed. I've never counseled somebody at a crisis pregnancy center. I can't even really say I've prayed to end abortion. And so I finished that movie with a deep conviction, like a real conviction of your life is never going to be the same again, Laurie. Because you now are equipped and you know more than you used to know. And so now there's a responsibility to do something with the knowledge that you have. And for the next 3 months, after I watched the film, it was getting the movie out there. And now I'm a week past that. And so I'm asking God, what is it? What is it that you want me to do? And so I don't know that I've had the massive breakthrough yet on the other side, except that God has spoken to my heart and I'm listening.
Well, here, give me a high five. Ready?
Yes. There we go.
Well, the reason I'm giving you that, because I felt exactly the same way. Here I'm a mom of 8 kids, and I've always been pro-life, but I haven't done anything. So I kind of got out of my comfort zone. And, the next day after I talked to you, I ran into this lady in the parking lot at my son's preschool, and she just had a pro-life bumper sticker. I mean, simple as that, And so I was like, hey, we just saw this movie last night. Have you heard of it? So we just got into this conversation. And she invited me to go pray at Planned Parenthood, just like in the movie up in Houston, right? So I'm like, okay, I think I need to do this, And I did it this morning. It was, actually, we have a couple pictures. Can we throw a couple pictures up there? Is that okay, Laurie?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. The first one, it was raining. Okay, I was like, I'm kind of picky about my hair, right? Because I knew I was going to have an interview with you tonight, but I didn't care. I got wet, but oh well. So there were just some people standing around, praying, and I hadn't done it before. My friend just had a little book of prayers, and she had her 2 kids with her. She's had 6 kids.
Wow.
So she's just really a great mom, and the people there were just great. I interviewed this one lady that's on the Houston Coalition for Life, and a couple people came over, actually walked out of Planned Parenthood, like 4 people. It was a grandmother and her daughter, and she was crying and asked us to pray because her granddaughter had decided to have an abortion, and they were really, really devastated. And they saw everybody praying, so they came over and asked if we would pray for them. So even if somebody's had an abortion, I don't know, prayer is helpful, it's powerful. So I was just really moved and felt great today. It took me an hour out of my day, and I felt like I did a really good thing. So
yeah, and you met new friends, and
I
mean,
people.
That's just so amazing.
Yeah. So so talk about a little bit of what you learned about the abortion industry that you kind of didn't know before.
Yeah, so that's a great question. Well, so I did not know some statistics.
Okay.
Whether I had ever heard them before and maybe just chose not to listen, I don't know. But so let me just start with a little interesting kind of story. The first week of February, I was on a trip with about 500 other people, and I didn't really talk a lot about the film at that point because I wasn't that immersed in it yet. And as I was sharing it, though, I shared it with 6 people, 6 women. I would say they were all like between the ages of 30 and 50.
Okay.
And privately, 2 of those women came to me and said I had an abortion.
When they were younger?
When they were in their early 20s. Okay. So they were both Christian women. They had they both, I would say, are actively involved in some sort of ministry. And one of them has now 6 children. The other one never could have children, even though she wanted to. She just couldn't. Mm-hmm. And both were very real with me about the challenges. And like not a single day goes by, 20 years later, that they don't think about their decision.
Really?
So
wow, that is amazing.
Isn't it? 2 out of 6 women.
Yeah.
Out of abortion. So then I learned that 1 in 3 women have had an abortion.
Wow.
And so when I learned that number and applied it to my group, I realized that was actually not a crazy number. It was really pretty much true.
True.
And so if 1 in 3 women have had an abortion, what's even more disturbing is that 75% of those women that have abortion
probably
are Christian. Yeah.
Wow.
And so now I don't have a breakdown, like are they, what kind of Christian are they? But but enough of a Christian, if you will, to know that abortion isn't right. And so what did I learn about the abortion industry? Well, first of all, in the movie, which is, by the way, 100% true, and the words of the filmmakers are, we did not embellish anything. Everything is true. Everything that you see on the film happened to Abby Johnson. But if anything, they left things out. There were just things they could not include. So there's a few scenes that I imagine struck you. One of the scenes is there's a young girl that comes in. Her dad brings her in. Yes. And you know in the story that she and her father know Abby, and it's kind of assumed that it's from church. And it makes sense. Like they knew each other, had a friendship. Right. Yeah. Church. So that was really disturbing to me. That a man because the stigma, right, of the father would also take his daughter to an abortion clinic. That really bothered me. Of course, what you see, and I'll save that for people to go see themselves, what happens to this young girl in the film. But some other things that I learned in the abortion industry would just be that, I think there is a lie that pro-choice is about empowering women. And I think that when you look in this, when you get the little glimpse inside of the abortion clinics through this movie, you realize that there's not a single woman that's having an abortion that feels empowered. Totally. Like, they go out of there completely traumatized in my head. Like, yes. It's amazing. I think that the employees feel as if they are empowering women. Yeah. But I can see why that. Women leave feeling like, oh, I can go conquer the world, I think that it's really true. Everybody's probably heard before that when you hear a heartbeat and you want it, then you're excited. It's life. Yeah. You sell. But when you hear a heartbeat and you don't want it, then the opposite is the case. And so to me, this film is really about the ultimate empowerment of women. Because when you see what really is going on behind the doors of an abortion clinic, then you really have to question what does empowering women look like, and how can we empower women to know the full story, to really be armed. Exactly. So like at the UN, I was just there for the consensus on the status of women, and it's all about empowering women. And abortion's your choice. You have this freedom to choose. It's your right. It's a human right, and it's not a human right. It's not in the UN document. They just keep saying it over and over so people think it sounds good, and it's not your right. It's not your. It's really not your body. It's a different body that is created, right? Absolutely. So, anyway, like my kids, all of my children have their own body. I don't have a right over their body. That's how I see it. So, yeah. Anyway, okay, so talk a little bit about the R rating, because I have never taken any of my children to an R-rated movie, so I feel a little bit guilty about taking my kids. But I knew it wasn't because it was supposed to be R. They did it right because, well, you tell me. Why did they rate it R? Sure. So there's the way that the filmmakers would describe it, and I've heard them say it, is that there is a team of it's a committee of about 10 people, and they all live in 90210. Those of us that used to watch TV in the 80s, we know what 902 California. And so, they definitely have an agenda, but they rated Unplanned. They gave it an R rating, which means restricted, for blood and disturbing images. And so, on the one hand, there's only 4 bad words, and it's the H word and the S word. I mean, they're not bad. They're not anything here on, unfortunately, on regular television, prime time. There's no more blood than you would see on a CSI. There's no nudity, there's no sex, there's no drugs, there's no guns. So why is it rated R if that is kind of like normal. And the answer is that when this committee watched the film, and so you've seen it, Rochelle, one of the openings in the very beginning is when they show Abby's experience with the ultrasound guided abortion.
Right.
And so they see on the screen a baby, a 13-week baby, and you see the baby squirming, moving around, and then the next shot is you don't see the baby. And they realized that that wasn't right. So on the one hand, having an R rate, they felt like, that I don't know that they would say it was murder, but they knew it wasn't right. And so they, on the one hand, I think the R is a victory, because I think that it says that Hollywood...
It shows the violence of an abortion.
Exactly.
Totally, yeah.
And what is sad is that you can have on national news, abortion can be talked about and applauded.
Yeah.
And it's fine to talk about it. But you put it in a movie and it's restricted.
Yeah, very ironic. Yeah.
Yeah, but this same group of people, they know that people like don't take our families to see rated R movies.
Right.
They know that.
They don't want us to go.
They don't. And so it's like I tell people, we have to beat them at their own game. And I think we have. We are beating them.
Great. That's a great way to put it. Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so who should see this movie, besides, like, do you think pro-choice people are going to go see this? Like, what do you think?
Yes. So, I would say, I think every human should see the film, and I don't think it's because it's not a political film at all. There's no agenda. I don't feel like there's an agenda. Do you feel like there's an agenda pushed?
No, I think young men should see it. I really do.
Oh yeah. I think that anybody that
besides young women, of course.
Relations.
Well, I know, like they need to know what the consequences of their choices are. Like. Anyway, I just think that young men need to be trained and taught a lot about what it means to be a father and the responsibility that comes with that, and not for them to just go ahead and let it be all on the girl. I think they need to participate in some of that trauma that is caused by partly it's half all their fault, right?
Right, yeah.
That's my opinion, but.
Yeah. I did want to mention that there are some stories coming back already of pro-choice women, particularly, that went and saw the movie last weekend, and that they left changing. They left the movie saying, I feel like I've been lied to, and I feel like I've got to research and begin to really understand what happens in abortion clinics. Yeah. And I think that, yes, pro-choice, pro-life, whatever you are, it is not a movie about politics. It is a movie about the humanity of life. It is about one woman's story, about her journey, and it's very human. Very human.
Yeah, it shows, I think some of the most moving parts of it are showing how her change happened and the guilt that she felt. Like, that was so real. It was so moving. That everybody should see, I really think that.
Right.
So, I just want to mention one thing. So those people that I saw today at Planned Parenthood, I just remember that the grandmother said, when we were talking about lies, right, of people being lied to, they said that their granddaughter was told by Planned Parenthood that she was going to get very ill and sick if she didn't have the abortion. So... I just don't believe that. Your body was meant to have the baby. Maybe the baby might die. I've had 3 miscarriages, right? But it's not like my life was ever in danger because I was carrying a baby. That's a very rare thing. So, anyway.
Yeah, and I think that you see that too in the movie. You begin to realize that there is a money making. That's
a huge money maker. Yeah. for sure. And the people that are behind it, big time money people, as well, that are donating to the cause. So, okay, what's some of the steps getting engaged in the pro-life community? Like, what can people do?
So you've already gone. I mean, you've already done something really amazing. It's just go to your local Planned Parenthood and stand on the other side of the fence and pray. Because here's the deal: you don't know about Planned Parenthood. You don't know the insides of Planned Parenthood or an abortion clinic until you talk to someone that's been on the inside, and they don't talk unless they leave, because there would be no reason to. So that's kind of what happens, is that when people leave and they begin to talk, then the organizations that are really on the ground doing more in the pro-life space are able to get more information. And one of the pieces of information that is now available, and is also in the movie, is that abortion clinics know that when there are people on the other side of the fence praying, their attendance for like people that come, and their abortion rate on that day is down 75%.
Wow. So it was like in the movie. I mean, 75%. That's a huge.
Yes, very real number.
That is awesome. I mean, that's kind of why I went. That's really effective. That's really powerful.
Exactly. And so what can we do? Well, you can find your local Planned Parenthood, and if you live in a community where there isn't a Planned Parenthood, because I live in a community where there's not a Planned Parenthood, the closest one is about an hour away.
Okay.
And so, but there are definitely places in my town where there are abortions performed. And, it's crazy. I have a friend who was expecting her 5th child. Her husband is a surgeon here in town, so the medical community knew this family. And at her 4-month ultrasound, she was pulled back into the doctor's office. Her husband was not there. And the doctor said, there's something not right with the baby's heart. And early detection, it looks like he's probably Down syndrome. And that doctor and 2 more doctors offered to abort the baby. And my friend, each time she said absolutely not. And the 3rd time, the doctor, it was 3 different doctors. The 3rd time, the doctor said, I will make a note on your chart so that nobody asks you that again. But it took 3 different doctors. So while there's not an abortion, like a Planned Parenthood in my town, there's are
other people that are willing to get the money for it, right?
They are offering it, and they are,
I'm curious, like it said in the movie, like the size of the fetus head depends on how much money it costs. So, I mean, you have to pay for it, right? And how much they bill, Medicare, Medicaid, insurance?
So,
do you know any of those?
So I think it's probably at the state level, but I'm not 100% sure how the government is funding abortions.
I'm curious about that.
I think it's a better analogy to think of, let me think of this here on the fly. So Planned Parenthood definitely gets money from the government, right?
Yes. Yes. All over the world.
They may not be funding abortions per se. Like they may be saying, okay, well, this money goes to overhead. Well, then Planned Parenthood can move their other money over to abortions, or they can so the government isn't necessarily funding abortions, but they are funding abortion suppliers, and that money can go however they want it to go.
That makes sense. Yeah, because International Planned Parenthood up at the UN, they're behind a lot of the comprehensive sex ed, all the contraceptives, all the abortion, right? And other countries donate, I'm not kidding, billions of dollars. So the Netherlands, you know how big the Netherlands is, right? They donated $650 million, so almost $1 billion. I mean, not all, right? For all the comprehensive sex ed, contraceptives, abortion. I mean, there's a lot of big money. So, yeah.
Well, back to how to get involved.
Yes, okay, yes.
In the movie, in my opinion, even though it is the Abby Johnson story, the heroes, in my opinion, are the organization called 40 Days for Life, 40 Days for Life is a nonprofit organization that for 8 years they were on the other side of the fence. They were praying with and for Abby Johnson. Mm-hmm. And when she decided to leave Planned Parenthood, she went to their office. Sean and Mary Lisa Carney are husband and wife team.
Wow. Yeah.
And that organization is an organization I've just fallen in love with. I actually worked really closely with them on this project in terms of I helped all of their chapters across the country get auditoriums to buy out for the film.
So they're national organization.
They are international.
International. Okay. Do we have 40 Days for Life up? Okay.
One thing you can do after tonight's episode is go to 40daysforlife.com, and it's the number 40. I think that you guys are going to put that.
You got that up there.
So 40 Days for Life.
Okay.
Sign up to receive their email. Okay. If that is the only thing you do, and here's why. So 40 Days for Life, they have 40-day prayer vigils. They're calm. They're organized. They are just very
peaceful, friendly,
like you're not going to see like a sign that says, baby killer, murderer. Like that is not what they prescribe to.
Right.
Well, 40 Days for Life, they're actually in the middle of a 40-day prayer vigil, and they have teams that will stand across the fence at Planned Parenthoods, and they're there from like 8 to 6. So it's not even a 24-hour prayer vigil. Yeah. It's just during the hours of that Planned Parenthood.
Of the clinic,
and every single day, Sean Carney sends out an email, and there are stories from around the world about babies that have been saved. And today, the email was about twins that had been saved, and how and because I'm a twin mom, and you're
and I'm a twin. Yoo-hoo! Yay! Save the twins.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine, how a mom could abort 2 babies, and so every single day, there's story. There's not just one story; it's multiple stories of babies that the day before. They got stories back from the campaign, and the day before those babies were saved. And today it was about several sets of twins. And if there's any one thing you can do, sign up for their newsletters and read them.
I'll do it.
And then watch for a 40 Days for Life campaign that will be in your area. Find out how you can get involved. You could even lead a local chapter. Maybe there's not even a group in your area. If you need help getting in touch with them, feel free to shoot me an email or ask Rochelle how to get in touch with me, and I'd be glad to connect you, because I just think that this organization, they're the real thing. They are amazing. I cannot say enough great things about them.
Yeah, I would love to meet Sean and Marilee sometime. That would be awesome.
Super. They're not far from me. They're like right there in your. They're also in Texas. So
are they in Austin area or College Station area still? Do you know? Oh, cool. Yeah, maybe we could get them on the show. Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah. Like even today when I was at Planned Parenthood, Teresa Camara, she's in the Houston Coalition for Life. She said they've saved 96 babies. So she's keeping track. They're keeping track.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that is really awesome. Yeah. So you can go to the website unplanned.com, is that right, to find out more about the movie? I think there's a trailer on there.
The site is unplannedfilm.com.
Okay.
Unplanned film. And there is all sorts of information there, including your local theater. You can click on I don't remember what it says. If it's
where we are, it's the AMC, at least near Pearland area. Yeah.
Yeah. The best thing that anybody can do right now is to go see the movie, and I don't say that because. I do think that everybody should see it, but the way you vote, the way that you keep this movie in theaters is to go see it. I mentioned in the very beginning that we were on 1,050 screens this past weekend, and we've expanded to over 7,000, or we've added 700 more screens this weekend. And so keep it. The best thing we can do now is just to go see the movie and to support it, and then tell people about it and take people back. At 40 Days for Life, they're encouraging people to go see it on opening weekend and then take a pro-choice friend back the following weekend.
Great idea. Yeah.
think about
get a group.
Get a group.
Go.
Take your family. And, again, like you said, it's not a movie that you would want to take. You have to be discerning about what age you would want to take.
Correct.
And it's different for your family. But, the best thing you can do is to support the film that way.
So I want you to also mention one other thing, because another reason I'm doing this, like I think we talked about, I've always been pro-life, and I haven't really known what I could do, but now seeing this movie, I do. However, when I found out about New York, approving the full-term abortions, that was just too much for me. Like, that's another thing that I think is next for each of our states. I think Texas is more a conservative state, but that's going to be at our door. And if people aren't aware about what's going on politically, then they need to know and know how to stand up and stop it. So that's just unconscionable, I think even a pro-choice person would, if they saw that happening, I don't know how they could not be fine with that. So, yeah.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. So, okay. So we've gone through everything. We have your information up there. You have everything up there. Okay. Great. What's the estimated time you think the movie will be in the theaters? Because originally it was just going to be this 1 week, right?
I think that with independent film, you have to kind of take it week by week.
Okay.
And I think, though, that I would hope that it's in the theaters at least for 3 or 4 weeks. It's not going to run forever. Yeah. But they're working on international distribution right now. So in case anybody that is watching is international, my goodness, I can tell you that the requests for international have been amazing. Good.
I'll give it a lot of my contacts, especially my African friends that I met up in the UN, the delegates and stuff. Yeah. That'd be great.
Yeah. So we're working now on international distribution, and I say I'm not actually involved in that part of it, but
you are for the national.
Are people that are working on that, and then eventually it'll go to DVD, and I think that at some point, if there's anybody here watching that. Whether it's a youth group or whether it's a high school group of kids that you have influence over, when it comes out on DVD, it might be the right time to bring it to that setting.
Let's just show it in the schools, right? That's what, if we're going to use the own strategy of what everybody else is doing to push their wrong agenda. Let's put that in and fight the same battle, same way,
Right. Well, I guess that now Planned Parenthood has a say in the curriculum in public schools across America. I don't know what that looks like exactly.
If that would even ever happen.
What'd you say?
Yeah. Or if that would ever happen, if Planned Parenthood's going to try and stop it,
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So there's, I would just say keep an eye open for the different ways that the film will come out. Whether, Yeah, exactly.
So mention one other thing that you were telling me about Abby helping other people leave Planned Parenthood and helping them find a job. I think she has a website called abortionworker.com.
So, Abby Johnson, who of course the film is based on her personal story. She is now she's very much the voice for pro-life. In fact, real quick, you should, after this, in addition to signing up for the 40 Days for Life email,
that's number one.
You should also like the Abby Johnson Facebook page.
Okay. Cool.
And you can search Abby.
Okay.
And Abby has now an organization called And Then There Were None, and her mission in life is to help employees that have been a part of Planned Parenthood come out, because the sad reality is that nobody wants to hire somebody that has Planned Parenthood on their abortion or on their resume. And yet the number one reason that people don't leave Planned Parenthood is because how are they going to provide for their family?
Get another
And
job. Yeah.
she helps people that are leaving the abortion industry, helps them get their lives back. And I think that's an amazing mission.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So number one, sign up for 40 Days for Life email from Sean and Marilee, right? Carney. And then, Marilisa. Okay, thanks. And then Facebook page for Abby Johnson. And then there is none. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's the name of her organization. Her Facebook page, Facebook is Abby Johnson : pro woman, pro baby, pro life.
Okay. And you didn't mention that she's having what? Okay, she had 2 abortions, but now she's what?
She's expecting her 8th child.
8th child. When is she due? Do you know?
I don't. But
man.
I will. I think,
she needs to be in the 8 club. No, I'm just kidding. But I have like 3 other friends that have 8 kids, and I'm like, yeah.
It's amazing. She does have a set of twins, by the way, so you get to 8 much quicker when you have multiples.
Yeah.
And one of them is also adopted. And so, that's also another angle to pro-life, is that it's one thing to tell women, have your baby, have your baby, have your baby, but it's a totally different thing. Some women really don't need to be caring for those babies. I have a friend, she's 56 years old. She and her husband are in the process of adopting their 5th child. This will be the 4th. They've only had 1 child biologically. Mm-hmm. Their other children were foster to adopt, and this one will be foster to adopt too at 56 years of age.
Wow.
Right? So, truly
amazing.
Pro-life.
Yeah. Actually, when I was at Planned Parenthood today, there was a girl that was crying and she was there praying because of her friend who had an IUD and still got pregnant, and she did not want this baby, and so she went to Planned Parenthood to get an abortion, but Planned Parenthood would not, I guess because of the IUD, and so they said, sorry, you're going to have this baby. So she had the baby. It was born at 7 months premature, so she's been this past month in the hospital here in Houston, and this gal that I was talking to today, she said she went with her friend to go visit with the baby, and she's like thinking now that she's had the baby, she's changed her mind about wanting this baby. And she said, so how do you feel? Are you happy you have this baby? And her friend said to her, she's like, well, I guess I don't hate the baby. And so she still kind of doesn't want the baby. And so, but my friend Teresa that was there that I met today, she's a friend, she said, well, I have a lot of friends that can't have children that would really be interested in adopting your baby or her baby. And so she's like, okay, I'll exchange information. And so that can change the life of a baby, if they're loved and cared for, and instead of being, and this mom that had the baby, she just has a boyfriend who didn't want it either, and she doesn't work and she doesn't have any support whatsoever. So yeah.
I mean,
so there's a lot of help.
That's reality.
Real situation. Yeah. Well, I know we've talked a lot, and we could keep talking a lot, so thank you so much for being on here, and let's keep in touch. I'd love to put people in touch with you, and maybe after a few weeks we can follow up with a quick interview with maybe Abby or Ashley Bratcher is the actress, right? She did a great job. Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll get people helping do the pro-life thing. So,
awesome.
Thanks. You're doing an awesome job, Laurie. So, thank you so much for joining us. And we'll just be in touch. Hopefully, we can have you on again, and you can give us some more statistics later on. We can always put you on again.
All right. Well, I hope everybody has a great evening. And thank you for being a part of our event tonight.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.